Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Coming up tonight on Our News, the Prime Minister weighs in on the Columbus statue debate. Plus, a writer tackles difficult questions of Bahamian citizenship. And an historian preserves the stories of Hurricane Dorian. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, Prime Minister Philip Davis reacting to the damage done to the Columbus statue in front of Government House, saying his government doesn't condone destruction of government property. However, Davis says while he's against those actions, he does understand the voices who say that history must be realigned to reveal its true facts.
I'm always concerned when I see acts of disobedience that results in destruction of public property.
Days after a man hacked away at the Columbus statue at Government House, shattering the arm and right leg, Prime Minister Davis is condemning the actions, but he admits there is merit to the debate surrounding whether the statue is appropriately placed.
Whatever the historical significance and the protests that has come from it in respect to Columbus' presence or encounter with the Bahamas, that's one issue. In fact, I sympathize and empathize with some of the voices that are speaking to the fact of not rewriting, but realigning history so that its true facts are revealed and interpreted.
According to police, officers were summoned to Mount Fitzwilliam early on Saturday afternoon, where they met a man causing damage to the statue with a sledgehammer. The man, who was also found in possession of a bulletproof vest, was arrested and is being held at the Central Detective Unit. Video of his actions were widely seen online.
I do share and understand some of the sentiments, but this is not the way to express those sentiments by destruction of public property. So we condone it, we do not condone it, and we expect that the person who's responsible will be dealt with in respect according to law.
The Columbus statue has become a polarizing symbol, with those calling for its removal pointing to Columbus's inhumane treatment of the indigenous people he met in the Americas. They say the statue belongs in a museum where it can be properly contextualized. Supporters of the statue's placement believe it is a valid representation of history. The statue is currently covered with blue tarp and tied down by rope. Davis says he will have to decide with his colleagues what happens next.
Whether we replaced it, that's not an issue. We'll have a discussion on that at cabinet level, and we'll decide what we do going forward. But there is a loud crowd out there, a loud cry out there for us to ensure that our history is properly represented, particularly as it relates to the African diaspora.
The Central Bank of the Bahamas is looking to make opening accounts at local commercial banks easier, according to the bank's governor, John Roll, who said some documents are no longer necessary. George O'Bain reports.
According to Roll, the Central Bank of the Bahamas is aiming to streamline the Know Your Customer process at commercial banks, which should make it easier for Bahamians to open savings and checking accounts.
What we're focused on for KYC, because Credit Bureau will speak more to the due diligence that institutions do when they're lending. But on the customer due diligence side, we are focused intensively on continuing to improve the process and the experience of account opening. We've stressed that if a resident is going into the banks to open up an account, if they have the passport, that's the only identification document that they need.
Roll said it's no longer necessary for those hoping to open accounts to provide a utility bill as proof of their residence.
We've also stressed that you do not need to produce a utility bill. We know that that was something that was relied upon, but that the institutions should verify that they have the means of contacting the individual. So it still speaks to address, having an address for the customer, but using the modern means by which you would contact and verify individuals, such as whether it's a mobile phone or email or those other means.
In cases where persons cannot provide a valid passport, Rule provided this suggestion.
The individuals do not have a passport. They can rely on two combinations of other official ID. So that is very important to stress.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Georgia Bain.
A project aimed at preserving the stories of those who have endured during and after Hurricane Dorian has been launched with the hopes of looking beyond and learning. Dorian Beyond is the brainchild of a Grand Bahama native and Dorian survivor. She sat down with our Kyle Joaquin.
We cannot merely depend on the kindness and the courage of ordinary Bahamians to save us. We shouldn't have to. But in Dorian, that was the overwhelming truth. And no matter how uncomfortable that makes anyone feel, it is a truth that must be aired, and it is a lesson that must be learned.
Dorian and Beyond is a digital storytelling project that records and preserves interviews to ensure stories of the powerful Category 5 hurricane that changed the lives of Bahamians on Abaco and Grand Bahama in 2019 are never forgotten.
As a historian, I know all too well that everything and everyone has a story. That doesn't mean that those stories cannot, however, be lost with time and space and change. And I thought it really, really important that someone somewhere make a conscientious effort to gather as many of these stories as we possibly could in order to preserve the story of all that Northern Bahamians on the Abacos and Grand Bahama in particular faced during the storm and in the wake of its unprecedented destruction.
Dr. Crystal DeGregory is a research fellow at Middle Tennessee State University's Center for Historic Preservation. More importantly, she's a Grand Bahamian who was on the island when Dorian made landfall.
So anyone, anywhere in the world, you could have been a survivor on the Abacos and Grand Bahama. You could have been a Bahamian in the rest of the nation or a Bahamian across the world, an NGO worker who came to the Bahamas in the wake of the storm. And so what we're looking for, and we're interested in telling all stories.
With Dorian and Beyond, you can read or hear a story. Those who have been impacted in whatever way can't get involved.
Every kind of story, whether it is of a survivor or, of someone alive who can tell the other nation's carrier how to make certain that their systems do not fail in a storm. Like, these are the conversations we need to have. And they are as welcomed, and I would argue as important as stories of, snakes and trees and water and loss and trauma and all of those other things, because, these collective stories are what we are going to need for our futures.
Speaking of the future, that's where the word beyond comes from in the title. DeGregory hopes it can be used as a tool for not just the country, but the region to learn from.
What are the lessons that we've learned from Dorian? What are the things that Dorian has taught us in industry, in medicine, in mental health? What are the things that we should be doing proactively in terms of environmental health and environmentalism, water preservation? So these are the kinds of things that we're interested in, everything and everyone's story.
To submit or get the stories of others impacted, you can visit DorianandBeyond.org. The project launches today, and DeGregory said the team welcomes financial support to ensure these important stories are shared and are not lost.
I would love to see more resources given to this effort. I have so many ideas, so many angles, so many things that desperately need to be done and need to be done quickly, or they will be lost. And so it is just my hope that there could be a value for what I am attempting to do with this project, for the work that our many vendors, the vast majority of them on the island.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Still to come on Our News, a group addresses crime by focusing on youth unemployment. and the popular bishop advocates for the less fortunate. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
Tackling crime usually centers around policing the streets and trying cases in court. But for the last 5 years, a local program is taking a deeper look at tackling crime through programs that target key contributors to crime. Jasmine Brown reports.
For years, the Citizen Security and Justice Program has taken what can be called a comprehensive approach to reducing crime and violence in the Bahamas. CSJP Communications Specialist Shaquille Colby says it combines preventative strategies with programs aimed at addressing some of the root causes of crime and criminal behavior. And to achieve this, CSJP focuses on 4 distinct areas that include improving social behavior, increasing employment opportunities, enhancing the administration of justice, and reducing recidivism at corrections institutions.
The Citizen Security and Justice Program is a loan facility, and the purpose of the loan facility is to contribute to the reduction in crime.
The Citizen Security and Justice Program was launched under the former Christie administration in May 2016. The program, funded by a $20 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, represents the single largest investment in a coordinated and comprehensive policy to address crime in the Bahamas. At its launch, officials said the program will address every single issue driving crime in the Bahamas. Tackling youth unemployment is a key pillar.
This particular component of the Citizen Security and Justice Program is component 2, and it's entitled Youth Employability. And so this entire component is providing resources, training, infrastructure for at-risk youth to ensure that as they enter into the job market, that they are tooled and equipped and competitive. What we've discovered through studies through the Inter-American Development Bank, a few studies that they've done, is that the unemployment rates are extremely high within the age group of 15 to 29. Not just that, but they are more susceptible to having longer stints of unemployment.
Colby says those IDB studies revealed a lot more.
The discouragement rates are higher within that age group. So they're very discouraged from even attempting to find employment. And so that's problematic because it does have a proportional effect on crime and violence, because this age group is also more prevalent and represented within the crime statistics. They're committing lots of crimes as well. And so we discovered that there's a correlation between youth unemployment and crime.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Charismatic religious leader and advocate for the poor, Bishop Lawrence Roll, says social services will have a huge task on its hand when it comes to meeting the increasing demand for food for people who don't have any. Roll says he doesn't think it was a good idea for the government to end its feeding program that ended this week after being in place since the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Honorable Vitchcom got something on his hand because people in need, and now all the government programs them shut down. I asked them, even if they just keep 1 or 2 open, please, what if they keep 1 or 2 open because people is in need? Today when you all come here around 12 o'clock, 12:30, you all said that can't be for real. And these are young men that coming from, some of them coming from the street. And some of them, you know, they're young people. You can't stop them from they want. They got needs too. Not just paying bill needs, they're young. And plenty of them get married. Some of them is my son-in-law, you know. I can't tell you all, you know, on TV, you know what it is. But you know, every young man want a little something. They want a little something. If you're a real young man, you want a little something. So when they come past they get married, I won't let them know, well, I can't help you. Because they serve. This one won't be a police. That's my son. All of these. That's my son-in-law.
Bishop Roll, who runs a weekly feeding program that feeds hundreds of people each week, says the demand isn't going anywhere. His program is one of several privately operated feeding programs that help the poor. Roll says currently his assistance program gets a small stipend from the government. However, he takes so much more. He says it takes so much more to help those in desperate need.
Parliament decided to give us $1,000 a month, but that's in every 6 months. $1,000 a month, we appreciate God for that. But we're going to tell you with now $1,000 a month can't feed this.
When Our News comes back from the break, a writer explores complex questions of Bahamian citizenship. And a group representing small businesses wants a meeting with government. We have the details when Our News returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
What does it mean to be a true Bahamian? Is it citizenship or something more abstract? It's a question being explored by writer, artist, and founder of Poinciana Paper Press, Sonia Farmer, through her project Indelible.
Indelible is an oral history archive that is dedicated to documenting citizenship experiences within and around the Bahamas. So I'm speaking with people who are stateless or have experienced statelessness. I'm speaking with folks who have encountered difficulty getting citizenship either for themselves or their children or their spouses. I'm talking with people who even have like dual citizenship. I'm talking with people who have even maybe given up their Bahamian citizenship for certain reasons.
Indelible, of course, describes the type of ink used on election day to mark a voter's thumb, a source of pride for many Bahamians. But Farmer says the Bahamas has some restrictive and exclusive citizenship laws, some of which voters were given the chance to change in the 2002 and 2016 gender equality referendums. At the time, Farmer supported the bills, but now she's pushing for more.
I also now think that the bills even weren't really that good enough. I really do believe that citizenship needs to be radically rethought in order to make it like a just global situation for everybody, because citizenship is a human right, and the Bahamas is involved in not helping people meet that human right.
Indelible received one of 5 grants from the Caribbean Development Bank, and the works will be launched on December 10th, Human Rights Day.
Citizenship is a human right, and we need to do better ensuring that everyone has access to citizenship in this country fairly and equitably.
Farmer is still conducting interviews to piece together the oral history and to tell the stories of people affected by citizenship struggles in the country. You can find her on Facebook at Poinciana Paper Press to learn more. In other news, he left his mark on the global music industry, but many Bahamians still may not know his sound or his name. The creators of the virtuoso from Small Hope are working to change that by telling the story and playing the music of Joseph Spence. Spence was born on Andros in 1910 and developed a style and technique with the guitar unlike any other artist. Spence died in Nassau at age 74, and most of his story was left untold. Now the virtuoso from Small Hope debuts as an Our TV original tonight on Our TV. Stay tuned after the news for the prime time premiere. The 242 Small Business Association and Resource Center's President Mark Turnquest is calling on the Davis administration to address long-standing issues facing small and medium-sized businesses. He said attempts were made with the former government, but they got no results.
We want a small business national development plan of the Bahamas, not just New Providence. We want the country to be opened up in favor of us for the COVID-19 pandemic. We also want the government to legislate by next year, because it's been 15 years now, right, that consecutive administration indicate that. So we want the Small Business Act to be legislated, right? It's been too long now.
So far, Turnquest said he's had no talks with the new government in this regard. However, he revealed that he wants to meet with them in November. He said the business sector isn't properly defined, which he said is hurting his members.
So because we are not well defined, legislation and policies direct to our sector is not accomplished successfully. So that is what our mission is.
Two Bahamians working on board a cruise ship talk about their experience and encourage other Bahamians to consider the career. That's coming up when Our News returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the Our News Bahamas page.
With more than 10 years' experience in their field, two Bahamians working on the Grand Classica say the experience has been rewarding and they'd encourage more Bahamians to join the cruise industry. Jillian Gray has that.
Head bartender on the Grand Classica, Devin Sutherland, has been on the water for 5 years. He showed us just how he gets the perfect drink every time for the passengers.
I'm gonna make a sex on the beach. All right. So you got some vodka, 1.5 ounce. You got some fish now, 1.5 ounce. All right. And you got some orange juice. Splash of cranberry. Alright. Let's give it a little mix. Sex on the beach. I love bartending and I just wanted to try something new. So I decided to start on the ship and I fell in love. So it's over 5 years now. As you can see, I moved up.
From constant skills training to meeting new people, Sutherland says he'd encourage any Bahamian to take the leap and work on a cruise ship.
It's different. You get the experience, different culture, different people. Like when I first started, I thought everybody was Chinese, but I came to know that we have Filipinos, Indonesians, you know, there's other people out there. So yeah, it's a good experience, you know. You should try. You should try.
The Grand Classica pulls into Grand Bahamas Port weekly, so Sutherland is never too far from home. Maritime graduate Martin Roll is second officer of the ship. That means he gets to navigate the ship and is an integral part in monitoring life-saving equipment.
I feel that it's a great industry for anyone who's looking to experience something different. If the 9 to 5, the office isn't for you, this is definitely a great avenue to travel, to meet new people, to see the world. It's really good.
Roll has been in the industry for 10 years and finds the work rewarding.
It's been a really pleasant experience, especially to be back to work after the COVID pandemic. It feels good to be here and everything.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Jared Higgs. We'll see you right back here for Our News at 11:30. Stay tuned for the primetime premiere of The Virtuoso from Small Hope right now. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.